I'm working with a mid-level professional inside of an engineering firm. This mid-level professional has a marketing background, and she's working with a bunch of people who are getting ready for an interview. And the way this organization works is they put together a bunch of kind of high-level leadership folks to strategize a given interview, even though these high-level folks may themselves not be part of the interview. So the organization wants these high-level folks to have their brains involved in the thinking around the interview. And what this person that I'm working with is reporting to me is she's feeling like she has no voice in these meetings, because what's happening is these high level folks are disagreeing on some kind of fundamental strategies around the interview. And it's an engineering firm, so a lot of what they're talking about is somewhat arcane to her. It's so technologically advanced, she can't follow it. And so she's just finding herself sitting in the room while these very smart folks throw around ideas that she can't understand. And she asked me, what's my role in there? Is there any reason for me to be in the room? And we talked through it, and pretty quickly we got her to recognize that her role in that room is to facilitate that conversation. So in an interview, it's incredibly important that the ideas that are communicated get communicated to folks who don't necessarily have a technical background. You sometimes don't know who's going to be on that selection committee. You sometimes don't know who's going to be in your audience. And if you speak a language or even speak from a certain perspective that's so sophisticated that your own coworkers don't know what you're talking about, that can be a problem. So what I did as I worked with this mid-level professional is I got her to recognize that it is her job to facilitate the conversation. So she had been kind of self-subtracting from the conversation for two reasons. One, she felt like she didn't have enough power to interact with these high-level folks. And two, she felt like she didn't have the technical knowledge to be able to participate in the conversation. I suggested that she had plenty of power and she could establish her power by inviting folks into these meetings and specifically laying out how this meeting is going to go. So I recommended that she lay out the goals of the meeting and the agenda of the meeting. The goal is we've got to get to this point of agreement. We've got to figure this thing out, and we've all got to agree on it. And the way that we're going to get there is we're going to systematically talk it through. I'm going to facilitate the conversation, and I'm asking you all to participate in the conversation, not from this combative standpoint, but from a standpoint of collaboration. And I'm suggesting that she set the tone of this meeting right at the beginning and not proceed until everybody in the room agrees to participate in the meeting the way that she's asking them to. Then I suggested that she lead the conversation with a few simple phases in mind. Phase one being a true brainstorm. Now, a true brainstorm is, it's really important that a brainstorm be treated like a brainstorm. And I myself have been guilty of not treating a brainstorm like a brainstorm. So the really important thing about a brainstorm is that all answers are valid. You want to invite as many answers to a specific question as possible. And it is really important to throw out a very specific question. So I gave her a specific question to ask, and I said, okay, you're going to invite as many answers as possible. And the way to capture these answers is to interact with them. So she throws a question out, one person throws out an answer, and if she doesn't know the answer, or if she doesn't understand the answer, then she should engage in dialogue with this person, A, until she gets it, and B, until it's simple enough for her to write down on a whiteboard. So I suggested she lay out a particular span of time, maybe 10 minutes, maybe 15 minutes, something like that. She says, okay, for this next span of time, we are going to brainstorm answers to this question. Here's the question. And then she gets answers, she interacts with them, she distills them, captures them on the board. That's phase one. Phase two is giving the room the opportunity to edit what has been captured. So throughout the brainstorm, no editing has been done. Nobody is questioning anything. Nobody is disqualifying anything. Nobody is trying to amend anything. She's just capturing the answers, distilling them, putting them on the board. So phase two, now the whole room can review and edit. Everybody's given the opportunity to suggest removing something. Everybody is invited to delete something on the board or amend something on the board. Now, you got to be careful about how you do this. You can't just delete if only one person thinks you should delete. If somebody does suggest that something get changed or deleted, the group needs to talk it through and figure out what the right thing is to do with each of those things. The reason it got put on the board in the first place is because somebody thought it was a good idea. And so the whole group can have a conversation about what needs to happen with it. By the end of that editing process, you're ready to move on to the next phase, which is, okay, everybody, we've got X number of options here. The original question was this. And what we want to do is look at these answers and see if we can come up with a version of an answer that's expansive enough. This is like an umbrella concept that's expansive enough to cover everything on the board here, because everything on this board is valid. The whole room has agreed that everything on the board is valid. What's the one idea that can capture all of this stuff? This process can cut through the conflict. It can push the conflict aside and create a collaborative space where a bunch of really smart people with different perspectives can come to a consensus. Give this a shot and let us know how it goes. I'd love to hear what actually happens as you practice facilitating something like this in the real world. Thanks very much.